Okay, welcome everybody to the Friday webinar. Just thanks for attending. As usual, we'll go through Bitcoin, we'll go through Ethereum, and then at that point, I'll break for any questions on general trading or the charts themselves, and then I'll move to requests. We don't have too many requests today that showed up on the board, but maybe I can spend a little more time on those. I'll take the full hour talking about charts, and if any questions come up again, let me know. Okay, so Bitcoin, let's get that chart, zoom in. I want to actually, let's take a zoomed out view. I think the question on a lot of people's mind is this move bullish, and could we bottom? And it depends. So in a very normal orthodox pattern, we have, let's see, I've lost my ABC here, but this is a B wave top here in February that we count, or it's over in this peak, which is a tad bit higher. And then we would normally have 5 waves as a C wave, so 1, 2, at least 3, if not 3 here, with being in a more complex 3, 4, 5. Because we went very high in this move here, we count, I at least personally count this as either 2 of a more complex WXY or actually B of 5. You can have an ABC in the leg of a diagonal, and it's just too high to be called a 4, that red count, which I had previously. Let me move all this down so you can see that better. So I don't view this as complete in any way, shape, or form unless we truncated in that last wave, because right now our wave 3 landed lower than our current wave 5. So we're sort of missing a bottom, unless this is a Y wave bottom here, and it's possible, and I believe Zach was counting this as a Y wave bottom with this potential impulse off that low. There are 2 issues with that. That would be that, one, this is 3 waves. Unless you really want to count that as a tiny 4, it's possible, but then this move is missing a 4. And then this is too low for a 1-2 really, although not invalid. So it's a very difficult thing to count right now the way it is. If you look at Ethereum and all that, it's actually quite more orthodox, if you will. But we often see Bitcoin go through counts that are really unorthodox. So again, I primarily count this as needing another low, at least in this white C, if not pushing deeper. But I can't say that this is invalid as a bottom. And what I'm looking for in the structure, since we've got overlapping structure through here, I hope you guys can see that. Let's get to a smaller time frame. We have a very clear overlapping structure, non-impulsive structure off the low, which I would assume in my trading that's a bear flag. A corrective move, but it can always be a diagonal. And if it's a diagonal, I count this as 1, 2, working on 3, and a 4 and 5. So if it's a diagonal, I would assume we would take a run at this channel again. It could perhaps be this. This can also come down into the channel this evening if this fails to follow through on this white count, which I'm going to talk about in a second because I think there's potential that it does. I'm just seeing it right now up to date. So if I draw the diagonal, I had this on account on one of the nightly reports a few weeks back. I would count it this way. And this is the only way I can potentially get a bullish move out of this, because we don't have an impulse, is really filling out a clear 5-wave diagonal, and it would look something like this. Let me make this red. That's the only way I see this panning out. I've studied this enough to just, even down to the 5-minute chart where we've got overlap, we've got all sorts of issues. You couldn't even finish a 5 in this move, for instance, or sorry, a 4 and a 5 in this move. That's usually part of a WXY corrective structure, although I didn't label it that way. And so it's a problem. But if it wants to go over 7,400, which is, let's see, I believe that's the 786 of this move down, then I have to at least give the bullish argument benefit of a doubt, especially if it fills out this 4 and 5. Again, the market can do whatever it wants, despite my best intentions. But I have to put my bets personally, my money, where I think is likely. And again, the way I'm trading this is I'm long for my long-term portfolio, but I'm hedging that portfolio, not even totally hedged. with catching some of these short moves. I caught most of this move down, and if we get a large move down, breaking out of this channel, I certainly will be in it because I'm slightly short now, and I'll add to it. So that's the way I see this, panning out at the time being. Believe me, if we are hitting this level of roughly 7,300 and then having another corrective drop and not an impulsive drop, I'll be extremely cautious in my short position, and I'll probably take it off. Because it certainly is fighting against resistance at the best of its ability. Ether is quite different. I hope that when you look at this chart, you have a chart that is hugging support levels and not getting off the ground. It's really this chart that more strongly, as I've been saying, suggests the flush is coming. We run a trend line through here. You can just, again, I've always talked about looking at proportions of the market. We've got this big move down here, which looks like a leading diagonal, and then we have inability of the market to take out resistance here, and now we have another weak move, which looks like the wave 2. So we're sort of necking down against this trend line, which is so far held aloft, but we only haven't hit it 3 times. We're going to probably take another run at it. I would be really surprised if Ether decides to go northward, but if it does, then we have to count this wave as wave 1 in a diagonal, and you might count it as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Although I count this as one ABC in the A wave. So it's possible that this is the beginning of a leading diagonal, and this would be A, B, and then we would see a very large move up into the 300s in a C wave, and then another 4 and 5. So the diagonal will be way out in time into September before it finished, most likely, given this pattern here. But again, my main belief is that we're going to run downhill and see this flush. So I can draw that diagonal just so everyone's clear. It's really this chart that says, more than anything, we've got a bear situation. Now, a lot of people like to say, well, Bitcoin will pull it out of its bearish setup. Well, not really, because whenever a coin, you still get patterns that are Elliott wave based when coins sort of survive. So I'm just simply saying that this is the only Elliott wave pattern I see panning out if this takes off, and so let's make this red as well. This would be the analogous to the Bitcoin pattern. It's a little different, but I hope you can really at least clearly see so far Ether is quite weak and unlikely to pull through here, given this pattern. So you can see it here in red. Hopefully you can see that well, and I'll put this on the site so you guys can see it a little bit closer. So that's where I'm at, and then the danger zone I'm seeing right now, I'm going to point out something to you that I see in Bitcoin in the very short term is let me pull this over. I'm using linear fibs. I know I call that a no-no, but we're on a very small time frame. We have in this move, we have potential 3-wave down, or this could be called a diagonal down, and this ABC. One of the issues I have here is that we really should have held below 618 and gotten our 5th wave. We did here, but if we really need, so in the 1-2, if I measure, when we do this, so measure this move and the 1-2, you want this to hold below the 618. It's possible below 764, but on a micro, we haven't gotten 5 waves yet. And having it show up in the 1.0 to 764 is usually completion of symmetry, which is corrective, and not happening below here and then pushing through in the 3rd wave. So this is this looks to me like we have an ABC move potentially, and we may see this drop out this evening. I don't know yet. But if it does, I don't know whether it will drop to this channel and then get that red 5 I've talked about, if it will drop through impulsively and begin our downslide. I'm not sure, but I actually am starting to lean that this move does not make it much farther before it drops through, and that's just because of where the fibs, it pushed through the 618 and is now going to likely complete 5 at the 1, and that's not bullish. Typically, I think Japel has said this many times, when you see the 1 of 3 show up at the 1.0, it's bad news. Usually it doesn't make it. So these are just points to be aware of. I'm not terribly bullish about this little pattern right here, and I know I'm in the weeds, but I don't know, this is what I do now. So be cautious at least. Okay, so that's it. Any questions about those trading this market? Well, I'll give you my little 2 cents. Again, I've been scaling up north as we go. When the market's been looking like it wants to push against my short positions, I've been taking little on other accounts, long positions on leverage to hedge and then take them off. And then in the meantime, I've really been focusing on building a short position, but it's really not terribly big right now because I don't like this pattern so much. But when we drop through one of these channels, back to Bitcoin especially, I will push that position larger. Just getting, I want to get as much as I can really high up in the 7,300. So that will be choice number one. If I don't get it and it starts to drop through immediately, then I'll press the position through the channel, and as it's breaking support, especially if techs are breaking down and whatnot. That's generally how I trade. I've learned to trade short successfully. Be really slow about putting the position on, especially when the market's pushing against resistance. That's how I manage. So, and then, we'll see if it starts to break through. And then if not, I'm not in such a large position I can't stop out. And then, and I'm also very long in my long-term portfolio, and I'll just start pressing on that side with leverage. Any questions about that? Bitcoin, Ether, how I trade it, how I manage it, questions? I think everyone's going to, you still expect one more low? And yes, I do. I don't see any, I see very few charts, and I've been pointing them out, that really beg for no more lows. So again, any questions? I'll wait 10 seconds and then I'll move on to the requests. Let me get out. I have all our request charts up here, but let's make sure. Yeah, it doesn't look like any new requests came in that I see. So Dawn's pointing out that upcoming futures market doesn't bode well for Ether, reason why BTC may not rescue it. Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I think here's my take on this. The futures market has been bad for Bitcoin because it's in a bear market. I think if Ether bottoms, it could be great for Ether. It really, I think what we often see is the futures markets really amplifying whatever market we're in. And we've only had a futures market in Bitcoin in a bear market. It came in at the top. So we haven't seen a futures market operate, except for the off-board unregulated futures. We haven't seen it operate within a bull market. So I actually am not sure about that, because I think if we bottom, why can't that market amplify the new bull market? Right? That's my take on these things. I don't think that futures destroy markets like some people believe. I don't think there's enough evidence for that. I don't think that you can say that of gold in any way, shape, or form. The futures market have existed both through bull and bear cycles. So that's my take. I'm happy to be wrong, but I bet, again, what's key is Ether is near long-term support, and and so if it doesn't hold there, then I'm extremely bearish long-term. So that's just the way I'll listen to the charts more than the futures market alone. Although I think the futures anomalies are quite interesting and fun to watch. So the question here is Bitcoin 7,400 or 7,600. Well, I hold. Let's look at it again. As what I recall is that 7,400 is very key. It's just the simple. If I let's get rid of some fibs, clean it up. Always put it back later. If I take the retrace, so from peak to trough, I just want to remind me. So, okay, so sometimes it seems like when I'm doing this, that's slightly off. That's why. All right, so this is when I say 7,400, I was rounding off the 7,387 or 618. It's actually possible that what's really scary is that we could technically have an ABC with a diagonal up to 764, and that would be the top of the channel. And it's really common for markets to in diagonals, even in the B waves, to come right back up to the channel. We see it less, at least I personally have seen it less in wave 5. And then 764 is a very normal retrace that Bitcoin often goes to. So but I'm not comfortable being short way up in there. Just my position will be tested too much personally. And so I would stop out and wait for a drop out of 7787, which I'll just say 7800 as the real top end of this. But the problem by then is we probably would have a nice shaped diagonal, and so I would really not want to be terribly bearish unless we're really, really clearly impulsive. It certainly would be suggestive of a market that is ready to bottom if it goes that high, whether it bottoms on this run or takes one more low. So I would consider it a bullish move, even if it doesn't bottom, if that makes any sense. So that's the upper end of this. The channel's right about there. B waves can go up to channels, but I would prefer not to let this move go past 7,400 personally. And we had a setup for that, but I suspect now that setup to 7,400 is going to fail this afternoon based on the fibs in the micro. But we'll have to see. Micro, we always have to be careful. So our ETC dash good for shorting now. I don't know how to short dash personally. If there's a place you can short dash, awesome. But I only think I don't know the micro of it. It looks like let's see, we can look at it real quick, and then I'll get to requests. I would look back. I can answer this on the board, but look back at all my short setup requests on ETC. I think ETC is a great short actually, as a potential short setup all the way down to $3 if it really wants to take it. I think dash is clearly corrective because this B was so low. Rarely does you get this move when you get almost to new lows and then you get a 5-way move off. It's almost always the C wave. It's kind of what I've said in the opposite about high B waves. High B waves are bullish, low B waves are bearish. So I would be surprised if this didn't come down. Normal targets would be a drop from probably around, if we get up to 210, if we even get there, all the way down to 103 at least. So it's a pretty good short if you ask me. You might want to wait for a setup unless you're daring, and then I just position small when the reversal is not confirmed yet. ETC, we'll look at it real quick and then we'll move on. But I'm posting that we have a beautiful short setup in that just is taking its time. It's much like Ether. However, when I project this one off normal fibs, unless it morphs into a diagonal, it projects all the way down to 346 from $12. So that's a great short, and I will probably actually start scaling into it soon. What I don't understand is how we can do all this while the market is very close to a bottom. So maybe Bitcoin goes through its waterfall and this takes this. I mean, this is awfully long. So it might be we end up seeing this as a B, C, or WXY or some other strange pattern by the end of this. So I think you will have to be cautious in the short. However, right now, it's a very, very valid 1-2-1-2 setup. Kind of picture perfect, really. We even have like a little bear flag on the end of this. So I think both of these are really solid shorts. And I probably will take ETC myself because I can short it on Kraken. But right now, I get a little more leverage in Ether. So right now, I'm liking the setup in Ether as well. Let's see. I've seen some charts where we can get to 7,800 and still not be bullish. Yeah, and that's possible. Like again, you're pointing out that the and I'm just cautious. Do I really want to be bearish at 7,800? Probably not. But 7,800 is technically not a breakout level in Elliott wave talk. It's really just a move up to the channel that's existed since February, which is really not terribly meaningful. Okay, so let's look through requests. If any more questions come up, no problem. We'll cover them. First request is EOS. I don't know. A lot of these I don't know how much new I'm going to say. It's again on the board. I can count this as a B. There is potential that R4 is here. It's just there's a lot of chop in there, and I can't. I could probably think of that as a 1-2, and then it's going all the way up to 7. Let's see, move my thing over 731. It's possible. If there's a 1-2 right here, with this much chop, it's any guess. I mean, I can see it coming down in C or go straight through all the way up to. It would really, if that was a 1-2, it really would project up to 731. But I wouldn't be trading like that with a whole lot of confidence personally, because all that overlap. Usually overlap is just bearish, so you would expect some kind of deep correction first. Let's see, but going back, I've been very consistent on my targets downward. Over, I think it's 778 is required to really confirm that this is resistance. This was a clear 3-wave move, unless that's an extended 5. And then this is not necessarily fitting bullish fibs. However, if we got another deep 4-5 out here and moved over 788, then I would say the bottom is likely in, and I'd have to give it the benefit of the doubt at least. But right now I still see one more low. It seems like an awful long ways down at this point in time, but we've seen markets move fast in flushes. So, I mean, I think that if everyone's worried about one more low, to be honest, some of these moves, any retraces down to these zones around this range are probably not going to take heat very long. It's just, again, if you're holding off a lot of cash, you might only want to spend some of it still. And then remember, as we get the major wave 1 up, there's always a wave 2 retrace on top of it after it. So there's more time to get bullish, provided that we hold support. So it's not like you're going to miss the train. We're going to break out to all-time highs, and you're just not going to ever have position, because we will have multiple retraces even after it confirms that the bottom is in, or confirms the bottom, quote unquote, so to speak, because confirmation is a very strong term in markets. But so don't I don't think FOMO is a healthy emotion. I think you have to choose, where do you want to enter? Do you want to enter with some heat taken potentially? Do you want to catch the reversal? Do you want to wait for more confirmation and catch the retrace after? It's really entirely up to you and what's going to settle your trading style. But don't follow emotions on any of that. Decide your plan, take it and do it, and be decisive, and you'll be successful over time. And then if you don't like what you're doing, you can adjust for the next time. That's kind of how you learn how to trade, in my view. So I sense some angst and worry sometimes on the site, and I certainly know that emotion myself, and I've just started to get it out of my life, I guess, so to speak, over time. Okay, I'm talking a lot. Ripple's funny because, okay, so this is 3-way move. This is not bullish. If I could get a retrace off this that fit a 4, we could say this is a really long 4, and it doesn't fit the fibs for a 4. So this is a 3-way move. This is a weird triangle, and it may be that it looks like a triangle anyway, and it may be that we break out over, and we're starting. So let's see, A, B, C, and we get the third wave of the diagonal over this resistance level of 41 cents. It's very possible, but it's also possible that this is a strange leading diagonal or a weird stretched out 2. So I would be cautious either direction in Ripple right now. Primary is still wave 1. Sorry, is still one more low until we really reverse this trend, which for me is at least taking out 41 cents. I just think this is the look of this is weird, and when you have a ABC this high, unless you're coming down, which you're not clearly, I have to start to feel like maybe this is going to break out over resistance. It's a strange pattern, and again, what I would say is A, B, C, or 1 A, B, C, ABC of a third wave of a diagonal, some form of diagonal maybe is trying to form here, and the bottom's in, but I just don't trust it at this point in time. It's also very truncated here. We're really missing a wave 4 unless this is our wave 4. Neo, not a lot to say there. I mean, we're still, like, you can see these common, let's get a better view. See these common, we've left the webinars with us pushing against resistance, but we haven't broken any of it. This one is also potentially have a leading diagonal, either here. I think this red is not right. I think that we've got a 4, and we do have a potential leading diagonal down in 1, which is the beginning of this wave 5. So I don't really have a problem with this one calling this one bearish. This is a perfectly formed C wave. Nice little 4 on the end of the C wave. It could be called WXY as well. Really classic. Is until it gets over. I don't know what. So it's around 23 that we potentially have to look something bullish. But we've sagged out even where we should have been pushing through hard if this was an impulsive move. So I don't see anything very bullish, but over 23, I'd have to give some level of benefit of a doubt. And then again, I want to remind that there's a lot of questions about this chart. I've said this, I've covered this every webinar over the last few weeks, and I'm sure some people are just haven't been able to see the recordings, but This is a wave 2 that I'm counting. However, it can also be an A wave because it's quite a shallow wave too, and that means that we'll get a B wave rally and get a bigger drop. This is not a definite, but it's just a possibility for how shallow this wave 2 is. There's a safer view also. I think Japel and Gap both have a view that this is potentially wave 4. We have a few of those where the three of us debate whether we are wave 4 or 5. I feel more confident about wave 2 in this one. That I have a long history. Man, I can't get a good view. I have a long history with this one and tracking all its subwaves. I'm pretty confident in the wave 2, but I can always be proven wrong. And that would mean a rally up to 1126 as long as we don't get the ABC, because ABC would confirm the wave 2 down if we saw it. This can be a shallow wave 2, or we can get a normal wave 2 down here in C. But again, if this is a wave 4, it certainly is in the range right now. And I can't argue with that at a fib level, but I don't see it in the structural counting all the waves through it. So that's where I'm at on that. Nice one. I've been buying it. I've been, I was going to let me show you something real quick. I've been using Switch.io to kind of play with some tokens. I'm going to log out of it because I don't want my balances seen, but hang on a second. The Switch.io, you put your private keys for NEO in, and then you have a little decentralized exchange. Sorry, it's not loading up for me. Let me try one more time, and if I can't get it, then I'll move on. And some of the coins, come on. Yeah, it's not coming up. Some of the coins have some interesting charts. They're not great Elliott wave examples, but interesting. And you can multiply. Basically, you're trading in NEO basis, just like an EOS decentralized exchange or BitShares. And so I'm trying to multiply my NEO holdings in NEO basis by trading in and out of coins that are going bullish against NEO in it. So it's something to try. It's Switch.io. I posted it in the web or on the board, and check it out and ask me if you can't find that link. Anyway, it's interesting, and I've been trading on it, and I've only spent about 5% of my NEO trying to up that account, but it's kind of fun, almost like a game. All right, next is ADA, and I don't really have much to add there. We're still waiting for one more low. The only thing I want to point out is this one really needs to hold that low. If you look at our fibs, you really want to see this 786 hold, and that would be well, it should be 764, but 0.046 in that zone. We really want to hold. You can get down to the 8887, but not comfortably. Now we have a very clear ABC. We had the very low B, which would suggest definitely that this is not an impulse, but unless it's truncated, is this definitely going to be a C wave, if not already topped, and then we should see a move in that too. It's just like everything else. This correction should be finishing post haste with this nice wave 4 here, and the nice B wave as a predecessor. So yeah, no change from the last couple webinars, but it looks good. But not in yet. Game is the same. Wave 4. Let's see. Let's pull a fib for resistance real quick. That's not impulsive. Super clear. I don't even need a micro. My micro doesn't work on this because of gaps, but I really don't need to see it. What I need to see is that 50% mark, which is way up at 53. It's not to say we have to get up to 53. 41 cents is ideal, but we haven't even gotten to the resistance level on this. So I would see ABC. Maybe we do even get that high and then come down. Let's see. Am I doing this the wrong way? Let's make sure. Sorry, let me flip tools real quick. Let's check it. Double check it one more time. Yeah, so 53 cents on the money. And then when I would see it run to ideally 96 cents or 75. And then on long term, this one's perfect. Really nothing to be nervous about. It's very shallow overall. And see it run up to about 60 bucks is what I was seeing recently. So no worries there. VTC is a diagonal. I don't know if we're going to hit that channel. Let's get. It doesn't look like we're going to stretch that far unless we really got a rip downward. But this is clearly moving as a diagonal, not impulsive overall. You have to be very careful with these charts. We've had many of these fail during this correction, but this one's still intact. It may be, I don't know, you have to do it off the B. It's sort of strange to see that a lot. It may pinch something like this, a contracting diagonal or something like that. That's what it looks like to me, unless this is really going to drop to the parallel channel point, which is way down here. But I see no reason the bottom's in. I can't get much of a micro, but that's a flag, not an impulse. So I wouldn't bet on anything but seeing more lows in this one. And then we would come to the channel. Right now I have this at 70. So that's a really big move. You would do it in an ABC, so not a fun chart to trade. Like this is an example of ABC. You get a symmetry through the move, or it might be, this might be a running flat and then ABC. That's what it looks like to me. It won't be very fun to trade, but if you hang on for dear life, you might hodl for dear life. You might get a nice trade out of it. XTZ was on there, so I'm skipping a couple of requests, but I'll come back to them. I don't understand this chart, so I have no faith in my own analysis. It's possible this is a high B or a 1 and C, and that we're forming a diagonal. But we haven't. It's nice that we haven't hit all-time lows, but this structure is an anomaly to me. If I had to bet on something, I would be some kind of diagonal. As shown, and then the only reason the difference between the red is probably this is 2 with an ABC, and the 1 is actually back here. So it's only a subtle change back here, but it's anyone's bet really. This one could do all sorts of things when you have this sorts of structure. So I don't have any faith in the chart whatsoever. Really don't feel confident giving any sort of strong opinion, unfortunately. Back up to ZCL. So ZCL failed. I had not been watching this, but a lot of people have, and it failed that impulse. It never got the fourth, and the bottom dropped out there. When you have this, the A equals C starts at 487, all the way down to 282, 5075. Unfortunately, we hit 250.75. We have a secondary C wave, it looks like, and this B wave. See B, C. I have to look at it. Yeah, long ABC. So it's not really a problem on the chart until we start taking all-time lows. Let me go back. Where's our all-time lows? Just to make sure. Yeah, so we're way down at way down here. So we're nowhere near. See, it looks like price is sub 20 cents. It's not really a problem until it goes down there. So we would probably bottom somewhere down here. It's okay if it goes to the 100, but there's no bottom in. All of my targets above are. This is an ugly chart, unfortunately. It's gotten kind of nice looking, and then it dropped. The bottom dropped out. So this is not a chart I trust personally. I know they've got a nice fork and all that stuff, but we've got some of the portfolio. I am not going to trade it anymore and find any way I can to get out of it. Personally, I know people are big on the fork and what they're doing, but it's not really behaving very well. But I still would expect somehow to get up to this 2,000 C5, anywhere from 500 to 13,000 even, but I'd have to see some actual bull structure to point us up there. So be careful with this one, but I would assume that everything else is going to get some form of bottom out of this soon. I would assume. We just need to see it. ENJ is a chart almost in trouble, but surviving so far. We have gone lower than 786, not good. Let's see if we hold the 887. We certainly have a wave 4 in progress. Up in here, ABC. It's a lot like ADA. And then I would be looking at 0.026 to hold. But this is a chart in trouble. When you get to 886, you really haven't done anything to fight off a correction, taking your resistance up, stay low and tight, or high and tight in any way. We're going deep, 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 deep. So not a fun one. We'll have to watch this one closely as we get into a bull market again, because it really has a risk of failure right now. So just be very cautious with it. I have a bunch of it, actually, a ton of it in my Ether wallet, and I am going to be on top of it when it's time to watch it the other way. I would have stopped out for it if I was aware of it, but it's too late to stop out now for me personally. Strat, I haven't traded Strat in forever. I used to have a giant position, Stratus. So thanks for bringing it up. I think it was Microwave. It's pretty interesting because I had not known that we had a big X wave top. I got out of it before that top. So, you know, a lot of subscribers, we were big into this one. For those that have been around since last August, we just hit the 1-year anniversary. So this chart still remains bullish. It has not broken support as long as 95 cents is held. I don't see a bottom on it. It has that same bear flag that everything else has, some kind of little 4. And then it targets $44 to 95 as the sort of normal extension, but we'll have to get the 1-2 set up. So it's actually pretty interesting. I mean, it's kind of a smart contract platform coin that still seems to be hanging on, even as EOS and Ether sort of have all the market share. So there's still a few of those like Lisk and those guys that are hanging on. So pretty interesting. I can go back on any of these charts if you have more specific questions, if I'm able to answer, particularly if I have the micro. That's the last request. I'll hang up early if no one has any questions, but I've got otherwise 25 minutes, so I'm very happy to take more questions on trading, on any of these charts we've gone through. If you want to throw another quest out there, I'm happy to throw it in. A couple questions. So Verge's request, I'll throw that one in there, no problem. Let's see. First, do you estimate most coins would bottom by approximately mid-September or thereabouts? Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. I see most coins right now having this little bear flag that should be the 4. Divergence is well formed on the chart, and I would assume we'll get a chart. The other thing is, you know, I've taught this when you measure. We are coming into the WXY. Let's do it. I don't know if this chart's not actually a good example. Let me look at NEO real quick. And there's a little pinball lesson. You know, it's always hard to know when you're in a B wave, but a May high was a B wave on most. And when you get to the WXY, which can be between the 786 and the 1382, some analysts use the 123, and so I would put that box here in NEO. And so you can see that this is a zone where your C is very close to symmetrical with your A. The lower end of this box is sort of super symmetrical, if you will, just like a little bit extended. And it makes me look like my box is a little low on NEO. It's outside the box below. I try to check all these. Looks like I didn't check this one, but the point is they're running out of runway for a corrective move. So unless this is going to form a large impulse and we're going to go to 0, we should be bottoming here. And really, in September, it looks likely. The question then is, you know, I got a B wave on this one. Some coins will not survive a B wave and another C wave lower, unless it's a B wave that almost breaks out. But then that's the question: what sort of bottom do we see? Bitcoin has room. Ether has no room. Obviously, NEO has room. Steam has room. So some coins have room for a B wave, others don't. So we're gonna have to watch that very closely, and if it's not impulsive in any way, or any coins are not showing impulsive rally, then in structure, then we may want to get out of them personally. So that's what we'll have to watch for. But it looks to me like in September we'll get a turn of some sort that we can start to manage our positions in. So okay, so Verge. Not much to say there. I mean, we still should get one more low, but it's still well over the ultimate support. So here's our box for the 4. We have a flag. Looks like this is our ABC top right here. I don't see us getting all the way to the box or even deep in the box. There's really nothing wrong with this at all. And then one thing I want to point out on this guy, because this has such a wild skew. I mean, if you look at, you even just had a C wave in red today, and it was like double. And if we go up to resistance, we could triple. So, or something like that on the chart. I was marveling at it. So, Verge is a lot like that. So, if we bottomed now, or right where I have this white count bottoming, we would expect wave 1 to be at 0.07. And right now we're at 0.09. So we have a 7x move just in the first move, if this is normal, just the first impulse moving up, and it will almost take out this B wave high. So pretty cool coin. Like red is the same way, that can really move in the first move in multi multi-return. But again, it just has to be impulsive. It has to prove out. I'm just saying what it can do. I can't promise that it will do that. It's just that would be normal pinball action. Can go lower to 382 sometimes, but we really like to see the 618 be at hidden 5 waves. We have some coins that go to the 764, and then we get nervous that we're forming a diagonal. So hopefully we get a 5 right into that spot at about 7 cents. See, next one is, will you make a list like Chappelle? Yes. I mean, the reason I don't do that is because I have 150 charts I commit to, and if I do it now, it's all going to be done over, and I don't want to do it until I can say, here we are. We have an impulse, we have a likely bottom, and I believe the list will stick for a couple of weeks. If I was doing it now, I'd redo it, mid-September, and I don't see a point. Obviously, it also takes me off the board and through the night sometimes to do it. So that's why I don't do it. And the list that Japel did was, much shorter than the one that I run through myself. I'm seeing a lot of new leaders that will get caught in that work, but I just want to see the bottom prove out. So hopefully you understand. But I got a lot of requests for that, and I'm going to wait. So it just makes more sense. See, you had made some charts against BTS earlier in the week. It seemed that Steam and EOS are expected to do much better than BTS. Can I explain those charts? Well, I mean, I don't know what to explain. You're going to see that. I mean, some coins are going to lead, some are not. I still, because any of these charts can prove me wrong, I'm careful. Let's see, let's see if it'll work. Any of these charts can prove me wrong, especially one like this that is potential diagonal. So this chart says that right now EOS will lead, but in the next move EOS will not. This doesn't mean that they will both be bearish. I don't know if this is going to be when EOS has its top at in the 20s or 40s or whatever it is for wave 1, and then it'll start to underperform. I'm really not sure, but I also don't totally trust this chart because this is really overlapping. So I would, my personal trading decision from this is hold both. I wouldn't hold one or the other because this chart's not very strong. However, if this pans out and we start to see top action around 5, then I want to sway some of my EOS holdings over to BTS and give a little more weighting on that side, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in this chart. I can't remember what's the other ones. I mean, BTS, Bitcoin was one, and this is also a really questionable chart. So a lot of this, when you have pair coins, they're pretty questionable in terms of count. This would be my take. This looks like an A, and this is like a B. It may even end up being a triangle before the C wave really takes shape. But this is very typical where you see bottoms in the altcoins before Bitcoin finally bottoms, or you see bottoms in Bitcoin basis charts during the new bull market. So we should see some of these charts bottom, and we should see a clarity that the C wave started if this count is correct. But I think mainly, so there's a couple explanations, but I think mainly you can only really use these charts to give some relative weighting. You can't really use them to, in my personal opinion, is really jettison one coin over another. I think the diversification is somewhat important because any of these charts could be undermined, especially if you're trying to track a diagonal, which I think this is. It's not clearly an impulsive chart with a standard structure. It may prove me wrong, but already this A wave is not. This is already a failed impulse right here. We don't have a 4 and a 5 on this. It's a 3-way move. So a lot of these charts are like that. So I would be very careful if you're going to swing from one coin to another wholeheartedly. You may be making a mistake. You might want to use this just to wait a little bit here and there as you go. Same thing I'm doing with the NEO Switch.io exchange. I'm using some of my NEO to pull some coins in that are seem to be outperforming NEO in the short term. So just to get a little bit of kind of juice in the portfolio, I guess, best way to put it. So hopefully that makes sense. If there's some more questions on that, let me know. Lisk is another question coming up. We've got 15 more minutes. I will have to cut it off when I get there. That may be at the bottom actually, guys. I don't follow this one very closely. I think that's a bottom. So So this is one we can watch for a corrective retrace, but I call that either, I mean, it's a little sloppy in here, but either 3, 4, 5, or this is 3, 4, and 5. I have to see how it goes. I just have too many gaps on the chart. But it is tall enough to be bottom. It looks impulsive in structure. So the bottom may be in. And if that's the case, one up is $119 if it would be normal pinball. So wave 1 of 3. So if this one gets a corrected pullback, it might be worth buying. We are at 460, so we have a 25x skew to wave 1 if it pans out. Wave 1 can also be lower, say 27, so there can be a big gap between low pinball and normal pinball, and extended pinball every once in a while shows up in cryptos at 340. So we have a big range for that, but we'll be able to narrow that down once we have a clearer setup. Usually when we get near the 236 on the first move, we're not there. So maybe low pinball 27 is probably more likely, is what I'm seeing here, based on where that first wave 5, if complete, is showing up, from what I see. OST, I think it's a chart in a downtrend, I believe. Yeah, so there's no sign of a bottom on this chart. And maybe that's some kind of wave 4, but we don't have enough history to say what it is. Again, when you have a downtrend, until you have an impulse, you have no count. So I'm gonna take all my fibs off. This is a count that I cannot. This is a chart I cannot count until this is clearly 5 waves. I can't see the micro very well. It might be trying to do 5 waves. Let's see. I just don't know what these bars are because I don't have enough data. It's extended, so it could have a bottom. Oh, whoops, I don't have all of it there. No, that's corrective. Yeah, I just don't have the data to say. It doesn't look like an impulse. It looks corrective to me when I count all of that. So I don't know. It's probably going down somewhere down the 2 cents region maybe, and see what happens there. But that's not a projection because I have nothing to project with. All right. Litecoin. Don't think there's going to be anything new there. Yeah, it's following the chart that I had. I have not touched this chart in days, if not over a week, and still playing out nicely. 66.79 is what I have for resistance. So still waiting for that one more low. And then I have a target somewhere up here. 1900 is where it starts, but we'll have to see the 1-2 setup. All right, and any more questions? Any more questions on any other charts? I got 13 minutes. I'm happy to stay, but going once. I'll wait for about 10 seconds and I'll start shutting down. And if you don't type fast, just raise your hand or type something. I got a question. Some people don't type that fast like I do. Okay, I think I'll hang up. If any more questions again on the board, I will get all these charts up, and when the video is ready, and then we'll talk later. See ya. Bye.